Ready, Freddy. The Reading Race. By Abby Klein. Chapter 1. The Readathon. Come sit on the rug, everybody, said our teacher, Mrs. Whooshy. I have something exciting to tell you about. We all walked over to the rug and sat down. Are we going on a field trip? Asked Robbie. No, said Mrs. Whooshy. I know. I know. Chloe yelled. We're going to have a party. I just love parties. No, not a party, said Mrs. Whooshy. Maybe this will give you a clue. She reached over, picked up a stack of papers, and handed one to each of us. The book fair, we all said together. The book fair is coming. Max jumped up off the rug and started bouncing up and down. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he sang as he pumped his fist in the air. By accident, he stepped on Chloe's finger. Ow ow, ow ow, ow ow, she screamed. She was running around and shaking her finger in the air. You broke my finger. You broke my finger. I did not, yelled Max. Yes, you did. Chloe cried. Did not. Did too. All right. That's enough, said Mrs. Whooshy. Chloe, let me see your finger. Chloe held out her finger so Mrs. Whooshy could look at it. See. It's broken. I can only move it this much. If it were broken, she wouldn't be able to move it at all, my best friend, Robbie, whispered to me. She is such a drama queen, said Jessie. Mrs. Whooshy gently touched Chloe's finger. I don't think it's broken. I told you, said Max. Well, it's all red, said Chloe. Look. She waved her finger in Max's face. I wouldn't do that if I were her, said Robbie. Yeah, I said. Last time she did that, he bit her finger. Jessie giggled. Just like an angry dog, old Max took a step toward Chloe. Watch out! Robbie whispered. Mrs. Whooshy put her hand on Max's shoulder. You need to apologize to Chloe. Why? Said Max. If she had her hands in her lap, then I wouldn't have stepped on her finger. No, said Mrs. Whooshy. If you were sitting quietly on the rug instead of jumping up and down, then this wouldn't have happened. You really need to be more careful. Yeah, Max, said Chloe. You need to calm down. Max, we're waiting, said Mrs. Whooshy. For what? For you to say you're sorry. Max sighed. Fine, I'm sorry, he mumbled. What? Said Chloe. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, he yelled in her face. Max, that was not very kind. Please tell Chloe you're sorry in a nice voice. I'm sorry, he said again. K-Soul XSM much better, said Mrs. Whooshy. Now please go sit in that chair. Max went to sit in a chair by the edge of the rug. Chloe, why don't you go over to the sink and run your finger under some cold water? That will make it feel a lot better. I think I need to go to the nurse, said Chloe. Go to the nurse? I whispered to Robbie. She's acting like she got her finger cut off. Robbie giggled. No, said Mrs. Whooshy. I think your finger will be fine if you just put some cold water on it. Chloe walked over to the sink, and Mrs. Whooshy came back to the front of the class. "Now, where was I?" she said. "You were telling us about the book fair," said Robbie. "That's right," said Mrs. Whooshy. "The book fair will be here next week." "I can't wait," I said. "I just love the book fair." "Me, too," said Jessie. "There are always so many cool books." "Like this one," said Robbie, pointing to a book on the paper Mrs. Whooshy had given us. "It's called The Night I Saved the Universe." It's about a boy who goes into outer space with an alien police officer to help him solve crimes. "Are there any Angelina Ballerina books?" Chloe asked as she walked back to the rug. "Those are my favorite. Angelina is a ballerina just like me." She spun around once before she sat down. "Oh, look," said Jessie. "Here's a cool book about basketball. I'm going to ask my abuela, my grandma, if I can get this one." "Girls can't buy basketball books," said Max. "Why not?" asked Jessie. "Because those are boy books," said Max. "There is no such thing as boy books and girl books," said Jessie. "Boys and girls can read any books they want." "That's right," said Mrs. Whooshy. "And I need all of the boys and all of the girls to do a lot of reading in the next week." "Why?" asked Robbie. "Because the book fair is holding a contest," said Mrs. Whooshy. "A contest?" said Max. "What kind of contest?" "Well," said Mrs. Whooshy, "we're going to have a readathon for 1 week, and the person who reads for the most minutes will get to pick 5 free books from the book fair." 5 free books. "Wow," said Max. "That's awesome." "There's more," said Mrs. Whooshy. "More?" said Robbie. "Really?" "Really," said Mrs. Whooshy. "Each class will add up all their reading minutes, and the class that has the highest total will get an author visit." "No way," said Robbie. "I've always wanted to meet a real live author." Mrs. Whooshy gave us each another piece of paper. "So here is the paper you need to fill out each day with your number of reading minutes. Your parents also have to sign it." "That's so you don't cheat," Chloe said, looking at Max. "I'm not a cheater." "You are," Max said to Chloe. "I am not," Chloe whined. "Oh boy, here we go again," I said. "You two need to stop," said Mrs. Whooshy. "It is not polite to call someone a cheater, and no one in our class cheats." Chloe and Max glared at each other. Mrs. Whooshy continued, "So for the next week, let's all read, read, read. I bet if we all work really hard, we can win that author visit." Chapter 2. Let me tell. That night when it was time for dessert, my dad asked, "Did anything happen at school today?" "Yes." "Do you want to hear something cool?" I said. "He was talking to me, Hammerhead," said Susie. "Not you." "How do you know?" I said. "Because he was looking at me," said Susie. So, that means he was asking me." "That's okay," said my dad. "You can both tell me something." "Susie, why don't you go first?" Susie smiled at me and then turned to my dad and said, "The book fair is coming next week, and there's going to be a contest." I interrupted. "That's not fair," Susie whined. "I was going to say that. Freddy ruined it." "You can still tell us about it," said my mom. "No, I can't," Susie said, pouting. He already told you. I'd like to hear more about the contest, said my dad. So if you're not going to tell me, then Freddy can. Freddy, do you want to tell me about it? Sure, Dad. There's going to be a readathon for a whole week. We're all supposed to keep track of how many minutes we read each day. And the person who reads the most minutes gets to pick 5 free books from the book fair, said Susie. Hey, I was telling them, I said, and you interrupted. Now you know how it feels, said Susie. I stuck my tongue out at her. Freddy, do not stick your tongue out at your sister. That's rude, said my dad. Well, she was rude to me, I said. If you two don't stop arguing, there will be no dessert, said my mom. No dessert. But you got my favorite ice cream, mint chocolate chip, at the grocery store today and told me I could have some for dessert, I said. Then you will stop fighting with your sister, said my mom. But what about her? She needs to stop, too. My mom looked at both of us. We glared at each other. I guess I can put this ice cream back in the freezer, said my mom. I had been waiting all day for that ice cream. No, wait. Susie and I said together. We'll be good. Promise? Said my mom. Promise, we said. My mom scooped out the ice cream and passed a bowl to each of us. I stuck my head in my bowl to smell it. I just love the fresh, minty smell. When I lifted my head up, Susie started pointing and laughing at me. What's so funny? I said. You have ice cream on your nose. I looked carefully at the tip of my nose. Sure enough, it was green. I tried to lick it off with my tongue. Freddy, what are you doing? Said my mom. Trying to get the ice cream off the end of my nose, I said. How about using a napkin instead of your tongue? But my way is more fun, I said. Your way is disgusting, said my mom. But, look. I almost got it all off, I said, sticking my tongue way out of my mouth and tickling the end of my nose. Freddy, please use your napkin. Oh, all right, I said. I picked up my napkin and wiped off the end of my nose. Mom, do we have any chocolate syrup? Yes, it's on the bottom shelf of the fridge. I went over to the refrigerator and grabbed the bottle of chocolate syrup. I brought it back to the table and poured it over my ice cream. Whoa, 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 said my dad. I think that's enough, Freddy. You can never have enough chocolate, I said, smiling. I stuck my finger in the chocolate syrup and then rubbed it on my top lip. Look, I have a chocolate mustache. Freddy, said my mom, you have to stop playing with your food. You are not a baby anymore, gee, sometimes I wonder, Susie mumbled to herself. Go over to the sink and wash off your face and hands right now. And don't touch anything on your way over. It's just a little chocolate syrup, I said. And a little chocolate syrup can make a big mess, my mom said. She is such a neat freak that she thinks everything is a big mess. I washed up and came back to the table to finish my dessert. Here's a spoon, said my mom. Use it, or I'll have to start calling you little piggy. So, can we finish talking about the book fair? Said my dad. Did you say that the person who reads the most minutes gets 5 free books? 5 free books of your choice, said Susie. Isn't that cool? I said. You get to pick them yourself. That is pretty cool, said my dad. What a great contest, said my mom. Of course, I like anything that gets you to read. I think I'm going to win, said Susie. I love to read. How about you, Freddy? Said my mom. I really want those books, but I can't win, I said. I am not a very good reader. Yes, you are, said my dad. No, I'm not, I said. And besides, Susie can read much faster than I can. So, said my dad. So, there's no way I can read that fast. Remember, said my mom. You're not counting how many books you read. You're counting the minutes. You don't need to read more books than Susie. You just need to read for more minutes than she does. I sat up in my chair and smiled. Hey, you're right, Mom. Why didn't I think of that? I gobbled the rest of my ice cream and jumped out of my chair. Where are you going? My mom asked. Where do you think? I said. To read. No Commander Upchuck tonight, said my dad. Nope, I said. No time for TV. I've got to read. Chapter 3. All night long. I ran upstairs to my room and started pulling books off my bookshelf, looking for my favorite shark book. No, not this one, I said as I tossed a book on the floor. Not this one, or this one, or this one. Each time, I looked at the title and then tossed it aside. I had pulled 20 more books off the shelf and still hadn't found my favorite one when Susie walked in the room. Get out of here! I yelled. What are you doing? What are you doing? She said. Look at this pile of books. You are going to be in so much trouble when Mom finds out about this mess. I'll clean it up as soon as I find the book I'm looking for. Which one are you looking for? Don't eat the teacher. Why do you need it so badly? Susie said. Because I know that one by heart. It's easy for me to read, so I want to read it tonight. Do you know where it is? Maybe. What do you mean maybe? Maybe I know where it is. So tell me where it is, I said. I don't know for sure, said Susie. What do you mean you don't know for sure? You just told me you knew where it was. When you asked me where it was, I said maybe I knew where it was, said Susie. Maybe. Arfk. I growled. Okay, then where do you think it is? In the bathroom. The bathroom? Why is it in the bathroom? I don't know, stinky head, said Susie. Maybe because you took it in there this morning. I did? Yes, you did. I think you were going to take it to school, so you brought it in there when you were brushing your teeth, but then you forgot to take it. Oh yeah. I think you're right, I said. Of course I'm right, Susie said, smiling. I'm always right. I ran past Susie and pushed open the bathroom door. There it was. Sitting on the edge of the sink. Right where I left it. I picked it up and brought it back into my room. Got it, I said to Susie. Thanks. You're welcome. If I were you, Susie said, I'd get this mess cleaned up before Mom comes Siles tabbed upstairs. Yeah, I mumbled. Do you want to help me? Nope, said Susie, turning to walk out of my room. I've got to start reading if I want to win this contest. Great, just great, I thought to myself. She's already going to be ahead of me. I stuck the books back on my shelf as quickly as possible. I didn't want to lose any more reading time. I sat down on my bed and began to read. I didn't realize how much time had passed until my mom came into my room. Okay, honey. It's time for bed. What? Freddy, it's time for bed, said my mom, and you're not even in your pajamas yet. Sorry, Mom. I was reading. I really like hearing you say that, my mom said, but now you need to put the book down and get ready for bed. It's late. But, Mom - no buts. Go brush your teeth and put on your pajamas. Okay, I said. I walked into the bathroom. A few minutes later my mom came in. I was sitting on the toilet reading my book. Freddy. What are you doing? Said my mom. I told you to get ready for bed. I just wanted to finish this book. Well, you can finish it in the morning. Right now it's bedtime. In fact, it's past your bedtime. You need to get to sleep. You have school tomorrow. You have 5 minutes to finish up and get in bed. I rushed to brush my teeth and put on my pajamas in 2 minutes, so I could have 3 extra minutes to read my book in bed. Now you look ready, Freddy, said my mom when she walked into my room. You'll have plenty of time to finish that book tomorrow. Good night, Mom, I said. Good night, Freddy, she said, giving me a kiss on the cheek. Go to sleep. She turned off my light and closed the door. As soon as I heard her footsteps disappear down the hall, I pulled my shark head flashlight out from under my covers. Pretty sneaky, I thought to myself. Now I can keep reading and she'll never know. I had only read 1 page when all of a sudden I heard my doorknob turning. My heart skipped a beat and I quickly shoved my flashlight and book under my covers. Hey, Freddy, said my dad, opening my bedroom door. I didn't get to kiss you goodnight. He walked over to my bed and sat down to give me a hug. He happened to sit right on the flashlight. I gulped. He pulled the flashlight out from under the covers. What's this doing here? I keep it there so the dream police can use it at night to scare away bad guys, I said. My dad smiled. Good idea, he said. I breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, that was a close one. Well, good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bad guys bite, said my dad, giving me a hug and a kiss. Good night, Dad, I said. He left my room and closed the door. This time I waited until I heard his bedroom door close before I pulled the flashlight out again.